The American Indian people have been, since the arrival of Christopher Columbus, exposed to the Christian faith. The history that unfolded from this point is tainted with much destruction, domination, resistance, and divisiveness, but there are also patches of light to be recognized. Whether for sincere motives or for those of gold and glory, many Europeans came to the Americas and changed the American Indians forever. Let's first consider the arrival of the first European nation to the Americas, the Spanish. Awful stories of brutality have been told of the first encounters between the Spanish conquistadors and the Indians in southern parts of the U.S. These men would often come declaring the superiority of their king, their pope, and their God, demanding that the American Indians convert or be fought, killed, and or put into slavery. Battles ensued, and many American Indians were forced into labor. The Spanish continued to have a presence in the Americas for years, preceding other European countries. Catholic missions were set up all across the southern states of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Priests often tried to convert the American Indians by force, pressuring them to be baptized or to change their lifestyle to be more Euro-American. However, one Indian man spoke of a group of friars that he liked from his community because of their humility. He wrote, "Because these go about poorly dressed and barefoot just like us, they eat what we eat, they settle among us, and their intercourse with us is gentle." In instances like this, American Indians were more likely to accept the Christian faith. Jesuit missionaries especially tried to learn the ways of the American Indians in order to be more effective in reaching them with the gospel. Unfortunately, in areas where oppression was used, revolts sometimes ensued, as in the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. In the 17th century, English, Dutch, and French settlers started voyaging to present-day America. Many came for the purpose of a better life for themselves, for wealth or religious freedom. Still, others had the salvation of the Indians as their major ambition. On the East Coast, Puritans started establishing praying towns in which Christian morals were enforced. Some American Indians willingly moved into these towns. Others were forced to move. One Christian man who was a key role in converting the Indians in New England was John Eliot, a Puritan minister who studied the Algonquin language and lived and preached among the Algonquin people till he was over 80 years old. He and others like him created tracts and other Christian literature for the Algonquin people in their own language, especially during the time of the First Great Awakening in the 1730s and 40s. Many American Indian men and women chose to be trained in Christian theology. They wanted training in order to go back to their communities to preach. Many Protestants put a lot of effort into getting the American Indians to be able to read the Bible on their own. Trends in missionary strategy also began to change. For instance, some Christians were choosing to live among the Indians and make relationships as a way to convert them. In many instances, American Indians looked to missionaries for help in setting up schools, for obtaining loans, for wage work, for markets for their farm products, and for being introduced to other Christians for the sake of marriage. The Christians who sincerely wanted to help the Indians brought humanitarian relief and advocated for the American Indian communities. For instance, it was missionaries after the Santee Uprising that petitioned for the review of death charges for 303 Dakota Indians. Because of their opposition, only 39 of the 303 accused American Indians were executed in Mankato, Minnesota. During this time in the 19th century, up until the 1930s, there were many rules and regulations set up by the federal, state, and town governments that limited traditional American Indian customs and religious practices. One regulation was that there was a limit of the number and types of Indian social and ritual dances. In many ways, the American Indians were forced to change their lifestyle. Yet, many persisted to keep their traditions, meeting in secret or having their festivals on national holidays when the police would probably not intervene. For many Christian leaders, though, they believed that by enforcing these rules, they were doing what was best for the American Indians. Many practices seemed strange to them, even demonic. For example, in the sacred Yulepi ritual, levitation, an unexplained phenomenon, was cited, and the calling upon spirits that was central in almost all American Indian rituals was unnerving to the American public. It was not until the 1930s when the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, John Collier, issued orders forbidding the interference with Indian religious life that the American Indians could practice all their rituals without concern for being caught. However, many customs were still highly discouraged. It was not until the 1960s and 70s, with the start of the Civil Rights Movement and then the New Age movement, that traditional American Indian culture was revitalized and became more accepted among Americans. Presently, there is still a lot of hurt that can be felt by many American Indians because of the treatment they received, many of the offenses being done by those who claimed to be Christian people. Many easily saw the contradictions and divisiveness that existed in Christian leaders' lives. This is one reason many have not embraced Christianity. Still many others see Christianity as a component of their spirituality, but still choose to practice American Indian customs, adding Jesus to a list of spiritual beings to be called on. Others have modified Christian beliefs into their worldview, making, for example, the sacred pipe a symbol of Christ, or the story of the woman who brought the calf pipe about the Virgin Mary. There is also a remnant of American Indians who would claim Christianity as their only faith and Jesus Christ as their only Lord, and who, like those from the First Great Awakening, are going back to their communities to serve and reach people with the gospel. So, for better or for worse, Christianity has made its mark on the American Indian people of the United States.